Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Podcast the Motion Picture. This week, we are going to be talking about beloved film Back to the Future. I am joined, of course, as always, by Moises Aris, Emily Osment, Jason Earls, and, of course, Billy Ray Cyrus. So, gang, we just watched Back to the Future, and can anybody here promise me that you're going to be back in time? Anybody? Anybody? Go ahead, hop in. Go ahead. I'm waiting. All right. So
Last week we were get on my time, and now we're getting back in time.
Yeah, a lot of time going around.
wow,
Nice.
what a hell of a segue movie to movie. Okay, so Back to the Future, for those of you who haven't seen it, go watch it. Movie about going back to the future. Marty McFly gets sent back in time, and now he's stuck for a week in the 1950s with his parents trying to get back to the future of 1985. And what a heck of a film. Does anybody have something that just has always stuck with them, and every time they watch it, they love getting to see it again? Is there anything in particular for anyone? Go ahead.
Weird place to start, maybe, but I always loved the musical score of this movie. Like, every time when Marty first peels away from the Libyans in the parking lot and it's bum 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 bum, I'm like, yeah. So someone could expand on that if they wanted, or just leave that to float and die. But
to talk
I
about,
always love hearing the music of this film.
Yeah, to talk about that bit of the music, not so much like the soundtrack, but like the scoring of it. It's a movie. If you pay attention to it, it does a cool thing in that a lot of scenes are heavily influenced by the music, as always in a movie. But in this one in particular, they do a good job of, typically you get very fast violin strings to cause stress. That's like a typical go-to. They use like a synthesizer and like a beat. Like when Doc's explaining things like
Yeah.
like it's an interesting take on them. And I will say, maybe it's just the way I play piano. I was brought up on classical piano shit, so it's all very heavy type of sounding stuff, very heavy piano themes. It always bewilders me. This movie, its main theme with dun 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 dun, and Indiana Jones is dun 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 dun. There's such positive music. Like they just pick you up whenever you hear it, no matter what you're doing. Like whenever I hear these two things, I'm like, let's go save the day. I'm ready. So yeah.
The topic of the Libyans, who would be the modern day equivalent? Who would Doc be buying his nuclear material from?
Libyans.
It could be the same, yeah.
Would it be Libyans again? I don't know. Gaddafi.
So I mentioned last week that I was like, yeah, I've seen bits and parts of this, non-completion. Yeah, I kind of overestimated myself. I had seen maybe a few scenes, so
Wow.
I was in for a treat last night when I watched this in completion for the first time. And
That
yeah,
is incredible.
I was pretty surprised by the Libyan plot line.
Yeah.
And how they kept coming back too. I mean,
Oh, I love Christopher Lloyd's delivery. Who do you think? The Libyans!
When he
so
says
good.
that, it killed me last night. The thought that it's such an obvious answer is
Yeah.
you don't get to do that.
and I think that opening where they're just slowly going through I think it's Doc's house, right? With all his gadgets or all the clocks and everything.
Yep.
And then it ends under the table, right on the plutonium, right on right on like the music drop right there. I really enjoyed that opening.
Yeah.
Really showing the setting and giving exposition through the news and
cinematography of this movie is such a giant hand of help. A lot of times camera work is done and it feels like a character in and of itself. This is a movie where it's like, without the camera work done in this movie, like it would probably just be another movie. And I mean, just say that's one thing, but a million things gone from this movie and it becomes something else entirely. I will say the opening shot, like you said, the scrolling of the clocks begins this like couple of questions that are a hell of a way to start a movie very subtly. All the clocks are there, and immediately, probably everybody who has ever watched the movie for the first time has said, "Why are there all these clocks here?"
Yeah. Yep.
And then it gets answered with Doc saying, as they go off, they're precisely 20 minutes late or 25 minutes late. To which Marty's and say, I'm late for school. To which,
Boom, boom.
yeah, to which you
Yeah.
gotta be asking yourself the question, maybe not right in the second, maybe a little bit later on down the road, but the question either way is subconsciously gotta be there. Why did he want what's happening, this experiment? Why are the clocks off by 25 minutes? And then it gets answered about 10 minutes later, in which he's got the time machine and you learn this is about time. He is a time traveler. Like, he's got it. That's what it's all been about. So that's one of the many parts of this movie in which you get a prime example of how cinematography essentially not only adds to something, but makes something of itself.
Yeah.
So I've got myself a little list of questions here. And this, I think, would have been, I ad-libbed the first question there, Noah, that you got so punchy about, buddy. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. Not quite my tempo. Jack, I have a question for you, my friend.
Yes.
What makes this movie special?
Well, there's a lot of things that make this movie special, Reed.
Why are you George Lucas?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those movies that you kind of watch, and what would the kids? The vibes are good.
Yes.
The vibes are good for this movie. There's very few times when you're like in peril. You kind of just sit back and it's like a goofy little romp through time.
Mhm.
So, but I mean, also like, come on, the two leads work so good. They're great in the movie. So,
Yeah.
I was thoroughly impressed with Michael J. Fox and how just
Oh.
cool Marty
Yeah.
McFly was. I mean,
Yes.
he's so
okay.
cool, such a fun character.
Okay. In the past I'd be like, oh, why is Marty J. McFly being bullied? Like, who would bully Marty J. McFly? Then you're like, well, his best friend is a old scientist and a dog.
Yeah. He
So
doesn't
like
come from a good home.
there is reason. There's
He doesn't get bullied in the movie. His dad gets bullied, right?
I
I
think
thought
yeah.
Like
I thought
Marty's.
Butch bullies him in it, doesn't he?
Well, Biff is
Biff?
like
Biff,
Biff
not
is like
He's
Butch.
back in time, they fight.
He's
but
back in
like,
time, yeah.
Yeah, it's
in
really
the
like
present
mean-
day.
targeted, but Marty always holds his own against Biff.
Am I getting a scene
Mhm.
mixed up even though I watched it 2 days ago? Am I
Yeah.
already losing
Butch
my
is the
mind?
villain from Back to the Future too, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Am I already getting? I've watched this 2 days ago, so
Yeah.
am I getting everything confused already?
It's a tough thing. You talking about the vibes is totally right. Not that there was a right answer to this, but there actually was, and you nailed it. Anyway, no, I think you're pretty right. Watching it, I think about a few scenes in particular. Just basic conversation, the exposition, the little bit of drama of we gotta keep you from your parents knowing you, and they gotta get together. I thought about it in terms of, could this be made today? Yes, it would be made as the same bit of pig slop that gets made. Picture like, okay, we've gender swapped it. It's Sydney Sweeney as Marty McFly, and the camera is just one static thing moving around. Like, that's what it would be today. And not that that's
his face.
He got
Okay,
really excited.
nobody wants this movie made. Anyway, so it's just as it's got something to it.
How many skateboards did they end up selling in 1985 because of this
Ooh.
movie?
It went up, I tell you that much.
I bought one now after
Yeah.
watching
Oh,
that.
it was still in California. Like the skateboarding was a California culture, not like the Tony Hawk ramp stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'm guessing a lot of people got skateboards for Christmas in 1985 and 86 because of this movie.
Yeah, because he's so cool. Marty McFly is just so cool.
Something I
Like,
like about his
You're
coolest
just
factor.
too dang loud. Like, what the hell? It's too darn loud. Like, shut up.
Guess you guys ain't ready for this yet.
Something about his coolness presentation is that I really like is he's never like, when he loses on something, like you're too loud or I guess you guys aren't quite ready for this. It's never like something that ruins him. Like, he doesn't care. Like, of course he wanted to win, but it doesn't stick with him. He's not bitter. Like, he just keeps moving forward, and He doesn't even make a show about it. Like we're just on to the next scene and it's over. And yeah, that's as it goes even with his parents. Is there?
Yeah, and why is that? Because he's got Doc with him. You know, he's got that stable mentor friend with him.
He's a very stable fellow, Marty McFly. That's a good way of
Yeah.
explaining him. Yeah.
I don't know about Doc. He gets shot by Libyans, but you know,
Yeah, he's making plutonium.
I won't use stable per se.
He helps Marty be stable. He is not stable himself.
I love the snarky remark Doc has about in there in 1955, and Marty says all they need is plutonium, and Doc has the line of, "I bet in 1985 they sell plutonium on every corner drugstore in America."
Yeah. I like when he
just-
says that Ronald Reagan is president and he goes,
The
"Oh, and who's
actor."
vice president? Jerry Lewis?"
Yeah.
Like
That was
that
funny.
always makes me laugh too.
No, one of your presidents got to be an actor. He's got to look good for TV.
Yep.
So in this, in the whole of the movie, you guys, has anybody ever noticed a loose end? Something left open? Not the ending where they got to go to the future. Not that opening. But is there ever like a thing where you said to yourself, "Why is that in there?"
Do you have an answer to this?
You
Because
sound like
my-
you have an answer.
from my point of view, this is one of my favorite like scripts ever written. And like, no, I don't really think there's like a loose end I feel from this movie. But if you have one, I'd be curious to know what it was.
No, this was a devil's advocate bit of questioning. I have nothing. I gotta say, I was thinking about as I was watching it, keeping an eye out. Not only is exposition done so well that there's not really a loose end. The exposition is done nearly 100% of the time in a fun presentation where Marty doesn't just get things explained, or he doesn't just stumble upon them. Like the bit of how do we get back to the future? A lightning bolt's going to hit the clock tower. When's it going to hit? Exactly at this time. How does Marty know? He has a pamphlet. How does he have a pamphlet? He just happened to get one because he was so cool. He gave the woman a quarter and said, "Scram, lady." And he took the thing, put it in his pocket. He's got it. That's such a ludicrous level of storytelling where it's fun along the way. It leaves nothing up for interpretation. Everything you need is right there. It's one of those things where I guarantee you they wrote the problem of how's he get there, lightning, where's the lightning come from, and then they backtrack. There's not a other way they did it other than backtrack, because it's such a perfect thing.
It's just every scene like introduces a new problem they have to solve, and then they fix it. Oh, but there's this new wrench, and it's just the action's always moving forward. It's just so cool. Like I've seen this movie so many times, and I'm just never bored when I watch it because it's just so engaging.
And as a first time viewer, that when she's save the clock tower, I mean, it's such a random interaction, and you're so pissed because he's like about to make out with his girl. You're like, get away, and like it's like, what the hell, like a clock tower, like, ugh. And you're like, this is coming back, right? And
then that kiss at the end is super earned because he's just waiting the whole movie, just to get back with his girlfriend,
and to get Marty on stage for that concert or the dance. You know, the bullies lock him in the trunk. That makes sense. The guitarist cuts his hand, getting him out. That makes sense. Like everything just works. It's so smart.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, so they're back in 55. Biff is in the car with his mom, like about to like sexually assault her. And then in the future, now he's like cleaning his or waxing his dad's car. If you were the mom, would you want Biff to be waxing your car?
No, is the answer to that. But different time.
Things change, 30 years past. It doesn't mean it's okay, but I think it just shows that they're very far past that, and Biff has become such a shadow of who he once was. Like, he's not a threat, he's a loser.
Yeah.
That's something I noticed this time around, was like his body language and the direction they gave him at the end of the film. Did you notice he was like putting his hand on his hips like that, and he was doing this with his hand? Like he's completely emasculated at the end of the film compared to George, who is this just swaggering confidence, because like he deserves it. Like he's an asshole, so he deserves to be like that. And but I mean, in the presence of George and stuff, like I don't know, I just noticed that for the first time, the way he's behaving, his body language, and it's like, oh yeah, he's just kind of a loser now, at least
Yeah.
compared to George.
And I think like most of my experience with time travel movies, it does not end well. Like, butterfly effect, and I mean, you could even
How
throw
many time travel movies have you seen?
you throw Interstellar in there too. Like, there's always some catastrophe, that or tragedy that happens with it. So to see it come back to the best possible outcome for our character who's deserving of it is you're never not smiling during this movie.
Very
Yeah.
glad that you have said exactly what you said. I've got a question here. I think it was about the same day we had said, let's do Back to the Future. I saw a Reddit post in which movies in which things don't work out for the hero, one of the things listed was Back to the Future. Things don't work out for Marty in this movie. He comes out on top. Things work out for the family very well. Marty goes back in time. Marty's goal is to get back to the future. Marty messes up his timeline. He never gets home. No matter what he does not go back home to the world he once knew.
Yeah, but he goes back to a way better one.
He does. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying things don't work out. And that exact thing happens, except he fails upwards. Things work out for him very well. Like this, if I went back in time, yeah, I would want my family to be better. Not that my family's, in a bad place, but I would like for things to be better for each and every one of them. I'd like things to be better for each and every one of you in a positive way. So just one of those things where things do change, but for the better. So just saying, things.
So did Marty McFly amount to anything? Because that's what Strickland says at the beginning. He's like, no McFly has ever amounted to anything. So like, did he not amount to anything by the end, or like, what's his arc? So
I mean, he
gets what
travels through time. That's
yeah,
pretty
I mean, yeah, he's the first
In the
time traveler
McLaurin.
or second time traveler.
I
And he
think
gets to play. He gets to invent like Chuck
DeLorean.
Berry's music and all that.
Yep.
He
Like, but
invents
no-
Chuck Berry.
He invented Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Shit, I had a kind of a good response. I think part of the thing that adds to Marty's cool, he doesn't really have the big growth on it. I think he shows growth in the end of the trilogy for sure when he kind of cools off on the ego. But in this movie, part of his cool factor is like he doesn't make a change, and it's that all the people in his life are affected by him. I think that's what we get to see is that he matters. Just
Yeah.
what happens to him doesn't necessarily. That's
One detail I wanted to mention, just we were hovering around the subject, is like how it's foreshadowed that Marty's gonna go back to a more improved reality is when he finally gets to the DeLorean with Doc back in 1955. He's like, my old man stood up to Biff. He's never done that before in his whole life. And Doc Brown's just like, never? And just shrugs it off. And that like gives you a hint. It's just, there's so many little details like that it's, I should have taken notes because like I can't think of them. But I'm just so constantly impressed by like all the little things that connect in this movie.
One of my favorite moments in the movie comes because it is a nonstop perfect script of no loose ends of like you said, where there's questions when things don't quite line up even. Like it has to be addressed. Is Marty keeps trying to warn Doc about the Libyans in the future and keeps trying to make sure he doesn't get himself killed. It's the bit where after there's nothing that's going to work out. Marty can't get his voice heard. Doc's ripped up the paper. When he gets to the future, Doc's okay for whatever reason. And Doc holds up the letter. It's such a just out of the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally works. But it was the one thing that never got set up. He just did it. He threw out his own rule book.
Mhm.
Yep.
I figured, what the hell?
Moments. Yeah.
What the hell?
Yep.
Yeah. It's another thing. I think Doc is also his own cool character too.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Presentation's a little different, but those bits of lines where he just throws away the science. All that he cares about is science. He throws them away for what the hell, and you're gonna see some serious shit.
One of my favorite Doc Brown parts was he's waiting for Marty to get back, and he's looking at his watch. It's like, damn, where is that boy? Damn it! Puts it down, looks at it like 2 seconds later. Damn.
Yeah, but between the three of us watching it, we all
makes
got a
me
laugh
think.
at it. Yeah.
Makes
Well,
me
and
think
when
of,
the like
damn, we're in a
cable,
tight spot.
yeah, when the
Damn, we're in a
cable
tight spot.
first like disconnects and he's like, he just like screams. It's so funny.
Yeah.
When the bell keeps ringing, he looks in, you see it ringing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yep.
So, he's like so comical. He's so good in the role. Just
Yep.
exaggerated and everything. He's so funny.
I've still got my hair. He looks the exact same. He looks the exact same.
Every time I watch this movie, Christopher Lloyd looks miles younger. Every time as a kid watching it, I was like, how did they
Yeah.
get this old guy to do this? Old people aren't fun.
Yep.
And now I'm watching it, it's like, is Christopher Lloyd 40? Like, what's
Right.
going on? He looks great.
Mhm.
I get that. I feel the same.
So another question here. Noah, do you
Yeah.
identify with any particular character?
George. I have George and Marty both in me, I think. I think I always wanted to have the Marty late to school play guitar bit, but in reality I'm much more George. And you know, I never had a moment in my life where I punched the bully in the face and then made out with
Right
what's her
here,
name?
buddy.
Lorraine.
Right here. Come get me.
But like, I don't know, I definitely had to reach a point in high school where I was like, I'm not really gonna like take shit anymore. Not to, I never physically fought anyone, but I did stop taking shit in a way. I was just like, someone was mean to me. I was like, oh, fuck you or whatever. You know, I just brushed it off. But
All
yeah,
of your words.
yeah. But the lines of George, like, I just don't think I could take that kind of rejection. And then seeing him like live out in the future, actually, he and Lorraine come back from a tennis match, which is fun. And then he's an author and he's successful. And I was like, yeah, I think I could be on the George McFly track, at
And
the successful George track, not the original George.
Marty and George both say they can't handle the rejection.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
So right
What?
there, you got both of them.
What does Marty say he can't handle the rejection?
Talking about the band towards the beginning.
With
Gotcha.
Lorraine, right before the clock tower.
Yep.
I
Talking
don't
with
recall
Jennifer.
that. I just
his
got
girlfriend.
I just got a little bit of chills there thinking about the parallel between him and George. That there's that little echo of Marty does have a little bit of
Absolutely.
here,
Well, and then
which is good.
in 1955, when they're in the cafeteria, George and
Mhm.
Marty, George is writing his novel, and Marty's like, "Get out of town! I didn't know you did anything creative." He's like, "Yeah, I don't let anyone read it though." And then George says that would probably be hard for someone to understand, and Marty's like, "Actually, yeah, I get it." So, yeah,
Mhm.
Marty, I think for me, the coolest thing Marty does in the movie is when George is doing the writing thing, and Marty is so interested in what his dad is working on. I just love that. It's such
yeah,
Well,
a like wholesome thing.
it's like wholesome, but imagine if you could be in that spot and see like what your family was doing when they were kids, because you're never gonna know
You-
that. You'll
and you'll
never
never
that
know.
ever.
You'll never know what your parents were like in high school, and it's probably not what you think 100%. So,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's how this movie got created. It was Bob Gale, his co-writer with Zemeckis. And it's like, I wonder what it would be like to know my dad in high school. So it's
Yeah.
kind of how he originated this.
Yeah. Does
And
anybody
would
else
I be friends with him?
Does anybody else have a character that resonates with them? I really like Noah's bit of insight to himself there. That was wonderful. Anybody else want to get off their chest who they feel they might identify with? Anybody?
I think Noah just slam dunked it.
I think he did too.
Thanks,
I'm just
guys.
getting at how similar Jack is to Lorraine in this movie.
Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
Thanks, babe.
Okay. No, you're right. He did slam dunk it. Okay, well, next question here on my little slip of paper. This one comes from a little ditty called R. the Rock, big guy at rochestergmail.com. He writes in, Dear Cole, have you got any comments on the outfits that they're wearing in this movie? What are your thoughts on the costume design?
Oh, Cole is a big fan.
I love Marty McFly's costume.
Yeah.
I think it's terrific. I think what they did, like maybe if I was like younger when I watched the movie, you just take all the images and stuff, you think it's like really cool, like the puffer vest and stuff and all that, but it's all so intentional. Like because they picked out all these very specific 80s things to make him stand out just so much from what it would have been like in 1955. And I think that was really cool, just from a screenplay perspective. But I really actually like the 50s outfits a lot. Because imagine like being a set designer and a costume designer in the 80s, trying to recreate something from 30 years ago, like with the sets, the costumes, and how people dressed. I was even down to like the differences in like the lion estates versus where their families live too. I never noticed that, which was like, oh, look at all these homes. And like in the 50s, they're all very big and they're elaborate and they're very specific. And then in the 80s, everyone lives in like, like these pop-up homes, like in the lion estates and everything. So but that's a little bit off topic. But I love the costume design. I like the 50s stuff a lot, and I think they nailed it really well. But Marty's costume's incredible. I love his shoes. I love the vest, and I think they did a great job of just kind of really capturing him in a distinct way. And then it's funny too when everyone in the 50s are like, did you get us coming from port? What's with the life preserver and all that?
Dork thinks he's gonna drown.
Dork thinks he's gonna drown.
Oh my God. Had they do that bit, what, like 6 times?
A
couple
Oh
times,
my
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That was great. I
So,
love that.
but-
Cole, you actually were inspired by Marty and got some red and white Nikes in high school at some
I
point.
remember.
Some
I
old school
remember.
ones like that.
I had those are called the Nike Blazers, is what he has. So like if you go on like the market, if you have like those the 77 Blazers, that's pretty similar to what he wore in the film. I think Jack has a pair of those red and white ones too. I think he
Yeah, they're
ordered
upstairs.
those. But I remember I got a pair of like the Nike Cortez in high school. I was probably like 16 or 17, I think. It was like the shoes that Forrest Gump wore. They were on sale, but they weren't the red and blue ones like from the movie. They were black because that's all you could get. And I thought I wanted to wear sneakers. I was into sneakers and stuff, but I didn't want to, I wasn't sure. So I got them. I wore them to school one day. First day I wore them to school. I was walking into social studies and or was it English class? I don't know, but I don't want to say names or whatever, but someone looked at it and he was like, "This is what the cheerleaders wear, Cole." And I'm like, "Fuck, I'm never wearing these again." So they went in the closet, and I never wore them ever again.
Not
I
that
didn't
you-
say that, did I?
Yeah, I didn't say
No,
it
no,
either,
no,
did
no.
I?
Okay.
None
Okay.
of you guys said it.
Thank
None
God.
of you guys said it. It was
I'm like, I've
I-
never seen those before.
you don't
all
have to drop
black
a name.
Nikes.
that's because I only wore them one time, and he said that cheerleaders wore them, and I'm like, "Fuck, I can't wear these."
You know what's so horrible?
They went
Is
in the closet, never to be seen again.
the
Damn it.
roller coaster that I think we all just went through of you brought up. No, I'm not gonna name names. We're all like, "Oh shit, who said it?" And then you said the line, and I bet all of us thought, "Oh, shit, I said that, didn't I?" That's something I would have done.
Yep.
Nope.
Oh my God.
There was
Yeah.
an 80s dress up day our senior year of high school
Yeah.
where I came in as Bender. And Reed, weren't you Bender as well?
No, he came in as Marty McFly.
Cole also
And
came
I
in Marty McFly.
And
We're
Cole's
both Marty
the other
McFly.
Bender. I knew there was 2 Benders and
No.
one Marty.
was
Yeah.
Marty McFly.
We were both Marty
There's-
McFly. There were two
we were
Marty
both Marty
McFlys.
McFly.
Okay. Anyways,
Reed got the vest, but I had the jean jacket.
Yeah.
It's-
I remember.
it was
And
cool that happened. I know I wore like fingerless gloves and I had
You should
boots.
still do that, man. You should do
I
that. all
should.
the time.
Yeah.
Cole,
Yeah.
I think we missed out writing a sitcom episode in which there's two Marty McFlys. Two people keep trying to be Marty McFly and it doesn't work.
but
I
no,
seeing this movie, looking at the outfits, this is like a small awakening. I'm trying to let it wash away. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll buy a bunch of 50s looking outfits because he looked cool in everything he wore. He was cool looking.
he had they had shape and drape. It was fantastic.
Noah, you looked like you were jumping in there.
I accidentally talked over someone. I'm sorry.
Jeez, how ridiculous! I'm mad.
I just wanted to agree with Cole and not just the costuming, but the sets and the whole design of the 50s. It looks so great. Like it feels like he's in a different world, but like also the same one. It's just so distinct. It's when Mr. Sandman's playing, which we're fans of due to its usage in the Halloween franchise, of course. But like that scene is so like palpable that he is in such an unfamiliar place and everything's just different. And yeah, I think the 50s look so cool. And I think without the 50s having that genuine feel to it, this movie would lose so much. And I think there's movies today where like there's period pieces, and by that I mean movies set in the 80s and 90s that look like less genuine than this one does. So
yeah, two things on top of that. You talk about how it's, it feels like it's a different world, but it's the same world. Is that center of town set that they use, one of my favorite touches to it is it's this beautiful center of town in the 55. When he comes back to the future of 1985, there's garbage everywhere. That beautiful green space in front of the city hall is ripped up and it's a parking lot. It is such a disgusting nightmare of a place. Like it's night and day. It's beautiful.
There's a porno theater too. Like the title's like Orgy American Style is on the marquee.
And I think it's in that shot. He has the line, "I'm back."
Yep.
He's so excited.
Yep.
It is funny.
When he goes back in time, they do the Mr. Sandman thing. The thing I was thinking about is how I think there's one particular close-up shot on a couple things, and they cut to wide shots in which there's focus action of the three gas station attendants running out to assist with gas, three of them. And there's a close-up shot of like a Patty Page poster, but so much is just this gigantic sweeping taking in this overwhelming 1955 picturesque landscape of a town where the set people did such good work. They're like, we're not even gonna focus. Like, we have so much in this, like we don't have to go up close on Patty Page. Like, we can just take it back and the audience can pick and choose whatever the hell they want to look at. That is how much 1955 we put in this movie. Same, like, same with the costumes, where it's just people are doing their job in this. Like, they worked very hard and it showed. Does anybody else, impromptu question, anybody else have another car they would like to have seen the time machine made out of?
Okay, now that we're on the car, and it was known that the DeLoreans were like a piece of shit car, right? And that's why it keeps on like not starting and working, is like they were making fun of that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the DeLorean, like, the only reason DeLorean ever sold cars was because it was in this movie. Like,
yeah, it was a failure before this, but they were like making fun of it, like that it was a piece of shit not starting.
now, I don't want to judge the people of the 80s. Go buy a DeLorean. Come on. Look at that thing.
So I am looking for an answer from everybody on this. But one thing I got to say before we get into it, and Jack and Cole, you might actually know this answer. You might know this answer because you guys, I know you like cars a little bit these days, and Jack especially, I know you love the car stuff now. So if you do have it, just look at the others. I want to wash over them. The car itself. Does anybody know what company manufactured the DeLorean?
Isn't it like GMC?
Yes, it's General Motors made that goddamn thing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. General Motors made the DeLorean. Oh my God, that's like if Ford came out and was like, "This is the Ford Lamborghini." Like, what? What are we doing here? Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah.
To answer your question, Reed, I do have an answer. And
what is it? What's your car?
It exists. It exists already in the form of Goldmember. Come on, the Mini Cooper that travels through time.
Yeah. It does exist. Okay. Jax is a Mini Cooper. I like that. Maybe specifically Goldmember.
Jack's dream car.
Dream
after
car.
DeLorean is a Mini Cooper.
It is.
Anybody else got one at the ready? Anybody?
Yeah, you know the Jeeps they drive in Jurassic Park with the Jurassic Park logo on them? That'd be pretty sick.
Okay. Cole?
That's a movie right there, Noah. It's Back to the Future, but it's Jurassic Park.
Don't
Back
give
to the
them
park.
ideas. That's going to be the next Jurassic Park. They're going to go back to the first Jurassic Park movie to try and prevent it. So never.
Prevent
You're gonna-
Jurassic
you're-
Park.
You're gonna give them ideas. No,
Yeah.
don't do that.
And then they're gonna end up like preventing the dinosaurs from going extinct, so that they've just lived in harmony for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's
Oh,
just
wait.
write that. Actually,
Why have they not made Jurassic Park where they actually go to the Jurassic era? Like,
Because they haven't
just
built
like
the
a
time
time
machine yet.
but they need to build the time machine
Yeah.
in the Mini Cooper, or sorry, in the Jeep,
yeah.
and go back to like 4 billion years ago or whatever.
What
You
do you
gotta-
all think the first ever idea for time travel existed? Do you think there was like a Neanderthal who was like sitting on a rock and like a big bee stung him and then his arm swelled up and he was like, damn, I wish I could go back 5 seconds.
Not and
That
smash
has to
bug.
be. Has to be. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
As soon as time was created, time wanted to be altered.
Yep.
Could
Wow.
you imagine like that? Like probably the Twilight Zone has something like some time travel shit in it. Could you imagine being like the
Well,
40s and 50s and watching the Twilight Zone and being like, whoa, time travel?
Well, what about that famous novel that is with the time machine, right? It came
What do
out in
they
like the
call it?
19th century.
Yeah.
Oh,
Effect?
yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Is
one?
that the original butterfly effect one? A guy goes, you can buy a time traveling vacation, travels back in time, he accidentally steps on a butterfly, he comes back, everything's ruined.
No, I think
What?
that's the butterfly effect.
That's what I just said. Is this a different story?
What's the name of the story you're talking about?
It's like, can
It's
you
literally
picture
called
it?
the
It's like
time
with the,
machine. Yeah.
it's called the time machine. It's
Yeah.
like, it's got the big like spinning wheel behind
Yeah.
it. It's like
It-
made out
there's-
of gold. It's
Honestly,
like
like
it's probably
aliens
just
or
called
creatures
the
in it,
Time
'cause-
Machine.
Yeah.
that's what it is.
1895 dystopian post-apocalyptic science fiction novella by H.G. Wells about a Victorian
Yes.
Well, yeah.
scientist known
Yep.
as Time Traveler.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, not quite the butterfly effect. Huh?
There's that bit in Gremlins where they're at the time, they're at like the Gizmo or Gadget convention, and there's the time machine in the background, and it cuts back, and then it goes back to his dad, and it's disappeared and gone.
Yep.
It Gremlins connection. The set for Hill Valley is the same
Fucking kill you.
lot as the one that they shot for in Gremlins. I'm
Cool.
serious, the same exact lot.
That
I
is really
also
cool.
believe- I think Lorraine's mom is the mom in Gremlins too, right? That microwave's one of the aliens.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah,
I
another
think it
Gremlins
is.
connection.
Yeah.
And it was produced by Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall. Same producing team.
How long has Kathleen Kennedy been associated with these guys? Like since the beginning?
Yeah.
Well, she married Frank Marshall.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've been together for how
What
many
was the
years?
first movie they worked on with Spielberg, though? I'd be curious to know. Like, because
Yeah,
they weren't around for Jaws yet. I don't.
they
think.
weren't.
Were they?
You'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
I don't
I don't know.
Probably Jurassic Park.
We don't know.
Hmm.
Wait, no. Ooh, an indie, right?
Does
Could have
any-
been like Raiders. Yeah.
I think Kathleen Kennedy's name is on Raiders of the Lost
I
Ark.
think so
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds very familiar.
That sounds right.
Yeah, there's a chunk of audience listeners who are saying to themselves, "Who are these people?
Who the
What
fuck?
are we
Yeah.
talking about? These are producers and whatnot."
This
But
is-
Unfortunately,
Unfortunately.
we have segmented parts of our brains to very, very possibly useless
Yeah.
information about
we
the
become
film medium.
tracked
Well, now-
into useless.
Well, now she's the Disney director, so I mean it's pretty pertinent info now.
She's not a fan of Star Wars. I can tell you that
Oh
much.
gosh.
So, jumping back towards Back to the Future a little bit, does anybody out of all those different costumes and whatnot, not just costumes, but like hair as well, is any one of the particular characters like above the others in terms of the look is so perfect for who this character is?
I mean, I don't want to answer the same thing twice, but George comes to mind again. Like
Yeah.
80s George is such a funny character. The way he laughs at that TV, his hair's just slicked. He's got the tie. And then when you see him in the 50s, he's like a good-looking kid, like he's still dorky. But like Crispin Glover in the 80s, he was in freaking Friday the 13th. Like he was
I was
Yeah.
just
he was a borderline heartthrob. So
I was waiting for someone to mention Friday the 13th because he has the best line in that entire movie.
Pat?
Dad.
Dad, where's the corkscrew?
Cat.
His
Oh.
dance too. Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
god.
Oh my, he's iconic.
He is iconic.
Oh.
He's such a great casting for that because like he's a good looker. Like he's not an ugly, unattractive guy by any means. He's a
Oh.
handsome fella.
Yeah.
Not only, yeah, I bring him up in particular because all of them have good outfits, all of them have good hair. The haircut he has in the 1950s is such a stellar, like, yeah, if he does it right, like in the end of the movie, he's got it combed over when he gets Lorraine finally, and like it's looking good. When he is running to catch up to Marty at one point because he had the dream, and it's all messy and like the
Yeah.
long parts are over here.
Yeah.
The look is the just like Jesus God, George McFly, what are you doing? Type of a thing. Yeah.
Well, he thinks Darth Vader's gonna melt his brain.
Yeah.
Marty's just like, yeah, maybe cool it on that.
Could
You
you
are my Noah, you are my density.
my
Imagine
density.
hearing Van Halen in 1955. Like, I'd probably believe in aliens too. So,
Did you notice that on the tape deck he wrote Edward Van Halen?
it's because Van Halen won't let them use like their name for some reason. But Eddie was cool with it, but the band wasn't. So,
Really? I had
Yeah.
no idea.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
I liked how it was Edward. That was funny.
yeah.
Yeah. Fun. Another additional connection between two different productions is this movie's Edward Van Halen is also seen in Twin Peaks season 3, The Return, as Edward Louis Severson. Oh boy. Am I
Wait,
not
what?
being heard? Am I on mute?
I haven't seen the show.
I haven't seen season 3. I know.
Oh
It's
my.
tough.
I've seen the first 10 minutes.
Didn't you
I
just
had
say
no
Eddie
idea, Reed,
Vedder's
but that's
name for
awesome.
some reason?
Eddie
Isn't that Eddie
Vedder?
Vedder? I don't know.
Oh yeah, it is. Sorry guys, I got
Yeah.
so excited at it. All right, well my fact's out right now.
Oh,
Um,
is Eddie Vedder one of the guys that plays at the bar?
yeah,
Does he
Eddie
play?
Vedder. He's Pearl Jam. Yes,
Yeah.
Edward Louis
They
Everson. He's in the he plays right after Audrey. Audrey does her dance. Anyway, I don't
Okay.
want to spoil. I don't want to spoil Twin Peaks. I don't get into Twin Peaks. Okay, moving on
But
from my
can
horrible
we
flub.
Van Halen is not in
Yeah,
Twin
he's not.
Peaks?
They're not the same guy. I flubbed it big
I
time, and I'm
was so-
horribly embarrassed.
I was so about to watch Twin Peaks, and now just
I'm sorry.
no.
You don't want to watch
no.
it for Eddie Vedder, dude? Come on.
I'm more of a Van Halen guy than a Pearl
I
Jam
am.
guy.
I know
Yeah,
you
that's
are.
fair.
That's surprising.
We're all going to move on from what I just did there. I
Yeah,
just need everybody
sorry.
in the audience to know this is a formal apology. I'm retracting my previous statement. Please, I swear to God, I know some things. That is the
Well,
last time I will do that. Probably
A
not.
famous artist does cameo in Back
But-
to the Future.
Oh,
Huey Lewis?
Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
where is his spot?
You're just too darn loud.
It's
That's
him.
it.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's it.
they're playing his song.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just too
Wow.
darn loud.
That is really good.
Mhm.
Sound mixing for Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. When Marty starts going off on it, the crowd gets quieter and you can hear the other instruments slowly taper off on their own. It's such a well done thing to where,
Yeah.
never having seen the scene, you don't really see it coming so much because he's just doing it so much. And it's like, yeah. Knowing it's coming and listening for that, it's like, oh no, this should have been obvious. He should have picked up on this.
Yeah. Trivia question: what's the name of Marty's band? He says it once.
Oh,
I knew what it
starts
was.
with a P.
It does.
God dang it, I'm not gonna get it. What is it?
Yeah, I knew it last night after
He
the
goes,
movie.
"We're the Pinheads,"
Yeah.
and then they start playing. I always think that's so cool.
Yeah,
Marty is so cool.
Yeah,
he's so cool.
he's so cool.
Okay. This is a question that goes out to all the Zachs in our studio here. We have a Zach? Yeah, we do. With such a solid production, did you have a favorite aspect of the creation? Sets, costumes, the hairdoings, the story, the cast, the camera work. Do you have something that just is like, this was it for you?
Yeah, I think it is. I think writing is first and foremost. I mean, nothing can be great unless it's, if it's not perfectly scripted out. And this is, like we've mentioned before, is, almost probably a perfect script in itself. And then I think the next phase that I, thought was the best about this was the acting and the production behind that, because you need the production with the costumes and the production design to make these characters look so good and feel so natural and real in their environment. And then, like I said, Michael J. Fox and his character. I mean, you're with him the most, obviously, and it's just so much fun being with him through his eyes, and his actions, throughout the film. So I think that's what's going through my head.
I'll say it's an awesome point right at the end there, especially is yeah, you don't really abandon Marty all too much. These side characters, other
Is
than
he in it? He might be in every scene.
pretty much.
Which you can also
Mhm.
say about Miles Teller and
Yeah,
Whiplash too. So
I was just
yeah.
gonna say that because I
Yeah.
didn't say it last week, but he
Yeah.
is in every scene.
Yep.
The only time is really very very small amounts of time with Doc is the only time, and they're just a few shots in particular where
Right.
Doc's on his own, and it's really just to add to the tension of whatever the heck Marty's doing. I wanted to call him Miles for a second there. Whatever Marty's doing.
He's going back to get enough speed to hit the lightning line.
Yeah, like such nothing little teeny tiny things. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
This movie exists because of Michael J. Fox. They had started filming Back to the Future with
Mhm.
Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly. The only reason why you might know who that is, he's the drug dealer in Pulp Fiction that sells to Travolta. And then in Rick and Morty, there's the bit where there's like Eric Stoltz mask Morty, where it's Morty with like the fucked up face. That's Eric Stoltz. And you can actually watch like test footage of him with Christopher Lloyd. And it must have been Kathleen and Frank Marshall and Spielberg. They're like, this isn't working. And I watched those clips, I mean, forever ago. Yeah, it's worse. And then Michael J. Fox came in and just energized the movie, like made it what it is. So all the props in the world to him. Just unbelievable in Back to the Future.
I think it's a very lucky thing. I just looked at pictures of Eric Stoltz. He looks a lot like Michael J. Fox at the time, actually. Maybe anyway, it is such a lucky thing that we do end up getting Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. If you want to call it the chemistry of it all, it's such a great thing. The way that Marty is cool and fun, and the way that Doc is kind of this weird character, but he's never like he's still a serious guy. Like he's the guy. Like you need him. If at the end of it all, he's always the time travel guy. He's not just the butt of a joke, or he's not some crazy guy. And the way that these two put themselves together is it's almost John Hughes level character work of just like it's a believable love that these two just have. It's not over the top, it's not campy, it's just wholesome, connected.
It's almost like they knew each other 30 years ago.
Yeah.
In another life.
Yeah. Out of time. Did you guys ever watch? It was about 2015. One of the late night shows. I think it's probably Jimmy Kimmel.
Yep.
They drive out on a DeLorean on the stage, and it's Marty and Doc.
Yep, I've seen that.
That was a treat. That was really fun.
Do you remember when Christopher Lloyd popped up in Nobody with Bob Odenkirk? And he's
Los
like a bad actor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recall it. Guy's still working. Guy's acting. He was just in Star Wars: The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Another Kathleen Kennedy. Do you think when they were hiring for that particular role in that episode of Mandalorian, they were like, Kathleen, we don't have anybody we can hire, and she was like, I know a guy, and it's Christopher Lloyd.
Probably. Yeah.
Perfect for this bit. Yeah, he's old as heck. Hey, another thing. Did you watch in Biden's last week of his presidency, he gave out the Medal of Freedom? Did you watch where he gave it out to Michael J. Fox?
No, I did not. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Michael J. Fox got a Medal of Freedom award or whatever. I think just for being such a spotlight of a physical illness such as what's he got? Parkinson's is the thing he's been dealing with all his life here.
Yep.
His health is not looking great. I don't mean to put a tear in anybody's heartstring here. And it, like his eyes, he just the way he can't really control himself as much as he has in the past 10 years, that at least the last couple times I've seen him on a camera. It's very sad. It's very disheartening. It's an unpleasant thing.
It's
Yeah.
it's terrible. Yeah. And it's something he's been dealing with for, I don't know, 25 years, maybe longer. Like it's been part of his personality, not personality, but like persona for a long time. Like he's been speaking up for that. So yeah, it's very sad. And all love for Michael J. Fox for sure.
Yeah. I think yeah, I'm with Noah. All love for Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
Do you think this movie would have succeeded if it were filmed and created in Germany during Nazi Germany's reign? Do you think that would have a difference on the film?
No, still great.
They would want to stay in time and not go anywhere.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want to time travel anywhere.
They wouldn't want to go anywhere else. Sure. Could you imagine how bad things would have been if Marty had gone back an extra 10 years and it was just... Actually, I think it's in November, so it would have been okay. They'd have been out of the war. Anyway. But yeah.
Yep.
Does anybody have a particular act in this movie they like? Between first act, second act, third act. You could even say the first half of the second act and the second half of the second act, if that's how you want to do it. It's a big movie. Anybody have like a big favorite chunk that they just love to see every time? Besides the whole movie.
Yeah, I would say the whole movie. No. I had like, I knew you were gonna ask that question. I know you so well that I was looking like for that when I was watching the movie. I think it's when Doc is first explaining the DeLorean and time travel. When they're out in that parking lot, Marty with the handheld camera, that 15-minute stretch from him getting to the parking lot to the Libyans and him getting out of time. I think that's my favorite. It's not an act. My favorite like scene to 15 minutes of the movie is in that parking lot at Twin Pines Mall, about 10, 15 minutes into the movie. It's just, there's so much energy. And I think I described Whiplash as magic last week, but I'm going to say it again. There's so much like magic when that thing backs up out of the truck and Christopher Lloyd just pops out with the steam. There's just something about that transcends like analytical why I like it. It's just one of my favorite scenes I've ever seen. So the explaining of the DeLorean and time travel always is my favorite part of this movie. So
what does his truck say? It says like Doc Brown Enterprises.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And the license plate says out of time on the DeLorean.
Jack, do you have a particular spot in the whole of the movie that sticks out to you?
Well, that is the best part of the movie. But I don't know. I like when you got the whole ending sequence is fun when he has to make sure with the concert and everything.
Yeah.
There's like 5. Yeah, I'd say that probably. I'd say the prom night is a really fun little sequence of events that goes on.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's probably when Marty's first back in time.
Exploring everything.
He's trying to figure out where the hell he is.
Yeah.
And tries to sleep with his mom. I mean,
Yeah. No, the prom night thing up until the Johnny B. Good thing, which is still great in of itself. I just mean a big particular section of as soon as Marty gets there for prom to the point that George punches Biff. For me, that's always the chunk of the movie where like my heart rate's up just a little bit because I'm like, I know things are going awry in the plan already. When they're in the car and Lorraine's like, you think I've never parked a car before?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, this is not what he signed up for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but
just starts taking a swig from like her alcohol. And
you're
just
drinking?
Lights up a cig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the
Starting
point
to sound
where
like my mother. And then Michael J. Fox just shoots it, like dead eyes.
To the point where George McFly opens up the door and there's just it's a big cloud of dress and suddenly Big Biff's coming out.
Oh
The
And-
moment where you get a really awkward camera shot, and it's something I really like because I like the individual style you don't see. It's kind of like awkwardly close on Biff or George on the night where he's got his hand here. It like looks like he's holding a camera himself. But to where like his face turns over and he's gonna hit Biff finally. Like that's like to me is the climax. Maybe it's because I stick with George a little bit through it all. Because with Marty, he's going back, but with George, like you don't know if he's got it in him, and he does. Like that's it for me.
Yeah. The line delivery of like, "No, Biff, you leave her alone."
Leave her alone.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Love it.
got a little bit welled up inside last
Yeah.
night watching it because I was like, oh yeah, man.
attaboy, George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
How
only
about-
is he helping, but he's becoming himself. What's that now?
How about figuring out that Marty only got hit by her dad's car because he was peeping through her window?
The way Michael J. Fox delivers that line sounds like kind of Midwest for some reason. I don't know if he's from the Midwest, but the way he just says, he's a peeping Tom.
He's a peeping Tom.
It's a
Absolutely.
peeping Tom. Like, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So many of these things really come back to, Michael J. Fox is a great energy to the film, and Marty's such a cool guy. And all of these, he's a peeping Tom.
Peeping.
Yeah. All right. Well, does anybody have anything that they got to tack onto this? They feel like, is that final tale of which to pin upon the donkey that is Back to the Future?
We can all go around too. I'll start. This is just one of those perfect films. I've held fast that this is, if it weren't for the fact that The Empire Strikes Back existed, this could be my favorite movie. It's just so perfect. It's endlessly entertaining, and watching it this time around was very rewarding. And I feel like it just represents just how enduring the film is, just in storytelling and special effects, and just it's forever. It's one of the all-time greats.
I
Is
can't say it any better than that. Like, I agree 1,000%.
Back to the Future, what year is its release?
85.
It is 85. Yeah. Cole's got it. It's good. I like it. I like the movie. The movie is good.
I like number 2 more.
My mom
Yeah.
unironically likes Back to the Future 2 the most. So
I
that
get it.
opinion is out there.
Yeah. I've always been a big Back to the Future 3 kind of guy myself.
Yeah.
Not
I'm
really,
a 2 over
actually.
3 guy, personally.
I am a
but
2 over 3 guy as well.
Yeah.
I think as a kid growing up, I was a 2 over 1 because I always liked the idea of a future growing
Yeah,
up. But
same.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
I'm not liking where we're going. Anyway,
Yeah.
So I think a good conversation to have here, very briefly, is do you guys ever want to follow up on this episode with a Back to the Future 2 someday? Not next week, but someday. Yeah. Head
I would be
nod.
open to it. Absolutely.
Someday.
Be fun to get a little conclusion on some of these things. Not really conclusion, but continuation. I mean, we're already doing the Treasure Planet saga at some point here.
Yeah.
We're working on that.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's coming back. Haven't read it since.
You've read like half a chapter.
No. I've read 2 sections of it. Like I'm 33% of the way through. Like,
Nice.
so I've seen it. Yeah, I've been working on it. That son of a gun. We don't have to get into it. That Long John Silver's a real SOB. You know that. a real biff, if you ask me. Okay. Well, we can certainly let's wrap this shindig up. Make sure if you're listening, just turn to the person to your right, roll down your window in traffic, reach across the aisle that is the barrier at a gas station, stop and say, hey, what are you pumping in your car? I'm listening to this podcast. I think you'd like it. Tell people about it, right? Tell people about the podcast, the motion picture. Tell people about mini movies. See our stuff. We have a lot of things out there. If you're working on things, reach out to us. Let us know. Anyway, guys, is there a particular movie you wanted to watch next week? I don't know if we discussed the potential. Just in case we have something to suggest people watching this interim. Do we have anything? We should probably do better about planning ahead.
We've done 80s, 2000s, and 2010s. Now we could find a 90s movie. That was my only thought. I don't have a specific one.
I like switching years and genres.
May
So
I introduce for the first time for your pleasure here? What's that line out of Iron Man for your consideration? 1990s, The Phantom.
The Phantom with Billy Zane?
Yes. Yes.
Is that streaming
Has
somewhere?
anybody watched that movie?
I've
Do
never
not
seen.
Google it. Do not
No.
Google a thing. Do not, seriously, do not Google a thing. We're not doing it. Not this week. I promise you that. Don't Google it. Leave it in the back of your mind. Someday
Well,
you're all going to sit down.
Was seeing if it was streaming, my friend.
Don't
Pluto
Google
TV.
it. Don't Google. I just said don't Google it.
I know what it is. Like I know what it is already. So
It is. Yeah, it's great. Someday. That's just a little dream I wanted to put in your head. 90s. We'll talk about it. We'll think about it. It's anybody
We'll
off the
talk
top of the
about
head.
The Phantom Menace?
No.
No.
Your
It's
1.5 star
Dude.
review.
Dude, we got a lot to talk about with that movie. We'll get to it. I said don't Google it. You guys are Googling it. Holy cow.
Is it on Letterboxd?
Shut the fuck up. Jesus
No.
Christ. I'm trying not to swear on here. You guys are making me break inside.
No.
Why did I even speak? I wish I could erase this part of our conversation. You guys are
No.
jerks.
Cole watched Phantom Menace and reviewed it like 1.5 star.
It's
Oh.
so fucking bad.
Did you just
I-
watch Phantom Menace again, Cole?
Oh yeah, Lily and I have been watching the prequels
Ugh.
together. We watched the original trilogy. It was awesome. And
Yeah.
we're on the prequels now, and that was horrible.
Something I love
I-
about you, Cole, is every time you watch the prequel trilogy, you will say the lines, "I'm not watching that again until I have to with kids," and then you watch it half a year later.
I'm never watching it again after this. I'm never watching it. I'm like Anakin just killed the Tusken Raiders in Attack of the Clones, and I'm just like I hate that. I hate that movie. It's
I
awful.
love Attack of the Clones.
It's
though.
awful.
Oh, I love it.
He didn't
You
just
said that for the
kill
longest
man,
time,
did
and
he?
I still don't believe you. That
No, it's my favorite Star Wars movie.
You are so full of shit.
It is. No, it is.
All right. Well, I guess we'll have to. We're not in a thinking mood. Really.
We'll edit
Yeah, I
it
guess
on there.
not.
Yeah.
what about Gattaca?
Yeah,
Gattaca?
Jack. Let's watch Gattaca.
I don't
That'd be
know.
a
What
Let's watch
I've never seen
Gattaca.
it.
I don't think I even have anything on my shelf that's like 90s based. Friday the 13th movies, I guess. Well, not till the very last of them.
We should do Goodwill Hunting at some point.
We should do that one.
That'd be sick. I love the Community joke when they do Goodwill Hunting, and Ahmed tells was it Troy that he doesn't want to see him again or something?
Yeah.
And then Troy's just like, "What the hell, dude?"
The best
Yeah.
part of your day is when you think I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll wrap it up. Everybody listening, I'll edit in an overtone of whatever we're gonna end up watching here for you all to know if you're that interested. So yeah, thank you all for listening. Like I said, try to get the word out there. We got big things coming down the road. I mean it. These next couple of weeks, I think you listeners are gonna have some things brought to your attention, buddies out there. We need to at some point, I hope we get to the point where we reach a level in our podcast where our podcast listeners have like a name, like the Podsters. But just another little thing we can work on is what if like we call them just something lame, like our buddies, and there's always like a effect to it, like we don't like it.
Yeah. We'll work on it.
We'll get there. We'll get there. You listeners for now. Someday you'll have a name. I got a name. All right, there goes copyright infringement. And take care. We'll see you next week. All right.